Bitter criticism. Finally, this time I just read everything from Al Jazeera, but I'm going back again to read something not related to genocides. Not related to genocide nor conflicts. TikTok polemic is kicking, still kicking. It's alive and kicking. So here we go. The TikTok polemic. U.S. appeals court upholds TikTok law forcing its sale. This is interesting because how it's going to be, I want to know. Either they are going to sell only inside the US, all over the world. It's funny, isn't it? US appeals court upholds TikTok law forcing its sale. The ruling increases the possibility of an unprecedented ban in just 6 weeks of TikTok in the US. Updated a day ago, yesterday, December the 6th. The United States Federal Appeals Court has upheld a law requiring Chinese-based ByteDance to divest itself of its popular short video app TikTok in the US by the early next year, or face a ban. The decision is a complete win for the Department of Justice and opponents of the app, and a devastating blow to ByteDance. The ruling now increases the possibility of an unprecedented ban in just 6 weeks on a social media app used by 170 million Americans. More than half. The ruling is likely to be appealed to the Supreme Court. Free speech advocates immediately criticized the decision. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, said it sets a, quote, flawed and dangerous precedent. Quote, banning TikTok blatantly violates the First Amendment rights of millions of Americans who use this app to express themselves and communicate with people around the world, unquote, said Patrick Toomey, Deputy Director of the ACLU's National Security Project. The appeals court said the law, quote, was the culmination of extensive bipartisan action by the Congress and by successive presidents. It was carefully crafted to deal only with control by a foreign adversary, and it was part of a broader effort to counter a well-substantiated national security threat posed by the PRC, People's Republic of China. U.S. Appeals Court judges Srinivasan, Naomi Rao, and Douglas Ginsburg considered the legal challenges brought by TikTok and users against the law that gives ByteDance until January 19 to sell or divest itself of TikTok's U.S. assets or face a ban. Interesting. I guess TikTok should not sell and just see what happens. I guess the users will keep using, will find a way to keep using it. Unless the Supreme Court reverses it, the decision puts TikTok's face puts TikTok's fate in the hands force of President Joe Biden of whether to grant a 90-day extension of the January 19 deadline to force a sale, and then to President-elect Donald Trump, who takes office on January 20. But it is not clear whether Biden's could meet the heavy burden to show it had made significant progress towards a divestiture needed to trigger the extension. Trump, who unsuccessfully tried to ban TikTok in 2020 during his first term, said before the November presidential election that he will not allow the ban of TikTok. TikTok said it expected the Supreme Court will reverse the appeals court decision on First Amendment grounds. The Supreme Court has an established historical record of protecting Americans' right to free speech, and we expect they will do just that on this important constitutional issue, unquote. TikTok said in a statement, adding the law will result, quote, in outright censorship of the American people, unquote. There was no immediate comment from the Justice Department. The court acknowledged its decision will lead TikTok's ban on January 19 without an extension from Biden. Quote, consequently, TikTok's millions of users will need to find alternative media of communication. The court Consequently, TikTok's millions of users will need to find alternative media of communication, the court said, which was because of China's hybrid commercial threat to U.S. national security, not to the U.S. government, which engaged with TikTok through a multi-year process in an effort to find an alternative solution. The opinion was written by Ginsburg, an appointee of President Ronald Reagan, and joined by Rao, who was named to the bench by Trump, and Srinivasan, an appointee of President Barack Obama. There's a video that says, as the fate of TikTok hangs in the balance in the US, so too does the future of those who have turned the platform into an arena for change. There's a subtitle now. Speculative concerns. The Justice Department said that under Chinese ownership, TikTok poses a serious national security threat because of its access to vast personal data of Americans, asserting China can covertly manipulate information that Americans consume via TikTok. TikTok and ByteDance argued the law is unconstitutional and violates Americans' free speech rights. They call it a radical departure from this country's tradition of championing an open internet, unquote. ByteDance, backed by Sequoia Capital, Susquehanna International Group, KKR and Co., and General Atlantic, among others, was valued at $268 billion in December 2023, when it offered to buy back about $5 billion worth of shares from investors. The law prohibits app stores like Apple and Alphabet's Google from offering TikTok and bars internet hosting services from supporting TikTok unless ByteDance divests TikTok by the deadline. US officials have warned that TikTok's management is beholden to the Chinese government, which could compel the company to share the data of its US users. TikTok was denied. It has TikTok has denied it has or ever will share US users' data, accusing American lawmakers in the lawsuit of advancing speculative concerns. In a concurring opinion, Srinivas acknowledged the decision will have major effects, noting 170 million Americans use TikTok to create and view all sorts of free expression and engage with one another in the world. And yet, in part precisely because of the platform's expansive reach, Congress and multiple presidents determined that divesting it from China's control is essential to protect our national security, unquote. He added that, quote, because the record reflects that Congress' decision was considered consistent with long-standing regulatory practice, devoid of an institutional aim to suppress particular messages or ideas, we are not in a position to set it aside that the source was Reuters, published on Al Jazeera English. That's it. So I don't like much TikTok, I prefer Instagram, but one thing I have to recognize that TikTok, it has a better algorithm, it has a better the information reach far away, for more people.